So far, we've gone over the user interface, creating a design and collage, and editing your project. This sums up the basics needed to create posts for several social media platforms. Just as good as someone using the desktop version of Illustrator or Photoshop. While we haven't gone over everything, this is the first milestone that we've arrived at, and it's time to test what we know, so let's implement what we've learned so far. The best use of our skills is to test them in a real-world scenario. In this scenario, we've been hired by a client who has made a Facebook page for his interests in the geography surrounding San Francisco. The name of the page is Geobiography, specifically a page that is essentially an online brochure on what to do outdoors in and around the Bay Area. He can't seem to come up with a page header design that he's satisfied with, so he's outsourcing to us to create that for him. Switching to Spark Post, we'll go ahead and begin the process. This will be a little more fast-paced, as you should be familiar with everything we are about to do. Let's start with creating a new project. We'll choose a pattern that represents the Bay Area in a subtle but noticeable way. I like the wave one, so I'll choose that. I'll click the download button and select to save it to my first library. That part doesn't really matter all that much. Now that we're at the size screen, scroll all the way over to social profile sizes and choose Facebook page cover. This actually isn't the correct format. The size we are looking for is 1958 by 745 pixels. Now that we have our size down to the correct proportion, we can begin editing. We'll add text that complements the background, and we'll have it say everything about the page in a short summary so people who visit the page can quickly know what the page is about. I'm going to create 3 separate text boxes just for the sake of quicker editing. Before we rearrange them in the spots we want, I'm going to focus on the text itself right now. The first thing I'll do is select the first text box and go to secondary style and select the geo and ography parts, and use this color as my text color for my secondary style. I'll go ahead and choose this shape as my text background while reducing the opacity to 75% to take an edge off of the intensity of the black. Finally, I'll change the secondary style font to Cabin Sketch because it adds a bit of playfulness that goes well with the color palette. The bay needs to stand out just a little more, and we can achieve that by adding the basic shadow effect. Next text box, I'll remove the shape first and again select the secondary style and choose only the word brochure. I'll go to my suggested colors and match the color of the previous text box. I'll mimic my actions by reducing the opacity to 75% again and selecting Cabin Sketch as my font. Now I'll go ahead and match the rest of the text with the previous text box by selecting my primary color and going to Effects to add my basic shadow effect, and changing the shadow colors to match. We'll repeat these same steps for the last text box. Now we need to arrange this in an eye-pleasing fashion. Try and match how I arrange the text boxes, and in the empty space in the top right and bottom left corners, we'll add a couple of pictures of the Bay Area. You can choose whichever you like. We won't add them to the collage as that'll mess up our placement of text, so we'll choose to let it move freely on our project. Arrange the image somewhat similar to mine on the project, and we'll go to Looks and choose a filter because the image is still really hard right now. I think I'll go with Lighten, and next go over to Opacity and lower as it still has a harsh look that doesn't fit with its environment. 65% looks right to me. Finally, we'll crop the image and select the rounded square to again add more softness to the image, adjust back to original size, and that is it for the image. We'll copy the same approach for the image on the bottom left. That should do it for the Facebook header. If you hadn't noticed, we used every single feature, option, and control we have gone over so far, just to make this, which is only the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we are able to do and what we will do. Coming up, we'll learn how to create a video thumbnail that catches the attention of people scrolling through YouTube and bring your make-believe channel more views.